I can't believe it's already time to make this video. As you see, there's nothing in the shelves behind me. The bathroom door is open and there's nothing on the bathroom sink. And that's because today is the day that I leave Chicago. I know I didn't really talk about leaving Chicago, and that's because I think that up until 10 days ago, I hadn't completely decided if I was just going to take a siesta at my parents' house for a couple of weeks or if the move was going to be permanent. And well, guys, I don't really have plans for this move to not be permanent. And of course, by permanent, I mean for the foreseeable future, for the next 2 years. So hello guys, if you don't know me, my name is Laigha, also known as Accessible Media Maven. I make videos about disability and chronic illness and fake claimers, which is what you guys seem to like, but I also make videos about my life because this started as a vlogging channel and then I kind of found my niche with the illness fakers content. And you guys, I'm not backing out of my promise to make that Taylor Swift video. I am not backing out of my promise to make more illness fakers content. It's just that this week has basically been homework and packing because, you know, maybe you think that, oh, it's just a dorm room. Oh, you move there with a backpack. No, 2 backpacks and 2 suitcases. How can there be much more? And well, in some ways there is, and in some ways there isn't. I guess that the main reason why I wanted to make this video is because people have such a negative view of Chicago, and I wanted to make a video about this city that I love. And also, I'm not supposed to leave my room. Well, I kind of timed out so that I won't be getting downstairs until like 7:50. So I guess that part of this is that I have time to kill, but part of it is just that, like, I want to tell you guys about the city, about the second city, about the city of the prairie, about the last great American city. Like, I love this place so much. And that is not to downplay or say that people who don't love Chicago aren't valid. There are valid concerns. I understand that some people would not feel comfortable just putting their headphones in and going about their day. Some people wouldn't be able to get back on the CTA after they were sexually harassed. But for me, there are so many good things about this city. And yes, I know that it's expensive. I recognize that I am incredibly privileged that I live in downtown Chicago and not in Inglewood or on the south side or the far south side. I recognize that. But also, I feel like we don't talk about the good of Chicago. We don't talk about how amazing it is that when you live downtown, you can get anywhere by walking. We don't talk about how amazing it is that unless you can own a car here, but you absolutely do not have to. I've been getting around just fine this last semester, basically only taking the city bus. The only reason why I'm not taking the city bus today is because I thought that it would just be easier to take paratransit. And honestly, when I think about what I love about Chicago, part of what I love is that there's so much here. Part of what I love is that there are so many different people. Like, I think about how I get on the bus and there are people with nice bags and shoes who I think, why the hell don't you own a car? You're not poor like the rest of us. And then there are people on the bus that are way poorer than me, people that don't have a place to live, people that don't have $500 a month like I do to spend on just living in Chicago, to spend on their wants. Well, I guess I do spend some money on my storage locker, but, you know, they don't have $450 a month to spend on food and doing things. They don't get refunds from school to be able to go see Hamilton. And I think that what I love about this city most is that diversity, is that there are so many different people. And a lot of people will say, well, Chicago's not diverse, everybody's Democrat. But like, the politics in Chicago are something else, let me tell you. It's just like how everyone thinks that everyone in Kansas is Republican, and so it's automatically super conservative state, you know? And, you know, it's hard to believe that it basically was a year ago that I left Chicago the first time. And the first time that I left Chicago, I knew I was coming back. I knew that if I could, that I was going to move from Burlington to Chicago. And I did that. I went to Roosevelt University. I lived here in this beautiful building, ate downstairs every morning. There's so many good things that I did. And it's hard because this time I'm leaving and I don't know when I'm coming back, you know? I mean, I would like to come back for graduation, obviously, but I know that this is a rambly video, and I know that future Laigha, who's editing this video on the train, probably thinks that it's hell. But the thing about Chicago is that it's an incredibly accessible city if you know how to work it. You know, all of the buses are accessible. Most of the trains are relatively accessible unless there's 15 people standing in the spot where my walker is supposed to go. You know, it's been lovely being able to walk around, and I am not trying to downplay. I'm not going to pretend like there haven't been times where I carried my walker up a set of steps, because I live basically in the not so nice part of downtown that's really old and is not fully accessible. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't doorways that are too narrow for my walker to go through, and I'm not going to pretend like there haven't been days where I've almost fallen getting off the bus. Like, those days happen. And I think that when I think about Chicago, I recognize the shitty things. I recognize that, you know, getting to my doctor appointment would be much easier if I had my car. I recognize that I would not have had to spend 5 hours going to a job interview in Evanston if I had my car, because it wouldn't have taken me, you know, an hour and 30 minutes on transit and another 45 minutes to an hour trying to get to transit and waiting for transit. You know, Chicago, you know, I think about that song. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. It's compromise that moves us along. I'm sorry for subjecting you to my singing, and I think that that's from the song "She Will Be Loved." But my thing is, like, there's not anywhere that I've lived that's been perfect. You know, Leavenworth wasn't perfect. It's incredibly expensive to live there for what the salaries are. You know, it's far enough away that you have to drive into the city regularly, and most people have a job in the city. But also, like, it's also far enough. Leavenworth is not perfect, but Burlington wasn't perfect either, and you guys know how much I love Burlington. You guys know that I consider Burlington my second home, and I think that I always will, you know. I can't wait until I get a full-time job and I can save up and go on vacation in Burlington and just be with my friends. But, you know, everything that is good has to have an end. And I think that overall my time in Chicago was good. I'm not going to remember Chicago for the 3 weeks that I was inpatient for one medical thing or another. I'm not going to remember, you know, Chicago for being sexually harassed on the bus coming home from a doctor appointment. I'm not going to remember Chicago for any of those bad things. I'm going to remember the amazing sour cream at Tallboy Tacos. I'm going to remember how I could walk outside of my dorm room and get on a bus that takes me anywhere. I'm going to remember the fact that there was a Thai restaurant around the corner that I loved to walk to. I'm going to remember the days where I would just go out and walk. going to remember the day where I got on the bus and I took the bus from the middle of downtown all the way out to the suburbs just to go get Longhorn Steakhouse because I was craving their spinach and artichoke dip with the fried pita bread chips. You know, I think that Chicago is so much what you make of it. And if you want to live and enjoy Chicago, I think that you will. But I also think that if you hate it here, that's valid, and you are going to hate it here. I am definitely not someone that pretends like I live in a bad part of Chicago, and I understand those people who don't want to live in Chicago, but I also don't understand those people who think that Chicago is an entirely bad place. You know? I live in a building street that is a big part of protests, and I'm going to remember standing out my window, my window over there, behind the door, and watching as protesters went down the street. And I understand that for some people that would be annoying as heck, and honestly it was the first time. But seeing all of these people out there loving Chicago, like wanting to protest and feeling, I don't know how safe they felt, but feeling like they could protest. I'm gonna remember Mexican Independence Day when they were literally, I remember it was the first time there had ever been a thing on the street. And I remember thinking, what the hell is all that honking? And I look out and there's just cars driving around honking their horns. And in the moment it's annoying, but it's also like, that's what I love about Chicago. I think I'm always going to remember the day on St. Patrick's Day when my friend Elise, who you've seen in older vlogs, when Elise and I went downtown, I didn't want to go in the torture museum. I took one step in and ran out. And then I got on the bus to come half a mile home, and it took us like 45 minutes because of traffic. And then there was like 10 minutes of shuffling so I could get off the bus because there were more people on that bus than I've ever seen on a bus ever before and ever since. I made so many good memories here, and I feel like if I could live in Chicago for forever, I would. But where I'm at in my career, I'm not there yet. I don't have a job where I could live comfortably in Chicago on my own, even if it was in a studio the size of this room. Hopefully it has not just a microwave and a fridge, but a stove as well. But even if I lived in somewhere the size of this room again, I would do it. But I'm still I'm changing careers, and so I'm not quite entry level, but not quite mid-level either. And that's just not where I want to be for living in Chicago. When I come to Chicago again, I want to have my life figured out, I want to be able to buy season tickets at the Nederland Theater and go see their shows. I want to be able to go in some of those stores downtown and actually buy things. I want to be able to go to a restaurant and not worry that I am spending, 10% of my money for the 2 weeks on one meal. I want to come back to Chicago in a time and a place where I could just live and exist here in this city that I love so much. And I do love it. I don't think that I will ever love any place as much as I love Burlington, because Burlington was the first time that I picked to live somewhere I picked to live somewhere on my own. And there was good and bad in Burlington too. There were hospital trips in Burlington too. But I think that overall I've done so much better in Chicago. And I don't know if it's because I had access to all of my doctors and a whole team that supported me. I don't know if it's because it's just much easier for me to keep up with a studio apartment. I don't know what it is that made Chicago such a better place for me to live. but I definitely lived, worked, and played here in Chicago, and I'm gonna miss it. Alright, guys. Wow, I really did cry my way through this video. Hopefully I'm going to be editing this on the train because I've got an 11-hour train ride until I get home at like 9 p.m. Well, until I get to Kansas City at 9 p.m. And then after I get to Kansas City, I of course have to get from Kansas City to Leavenworth, which is like another hour. So yeah, I'm leaving my room at 7:45 and I'm getting to my parents' house at 10 p.m. That's the type of day that I'm in for. Alright guys, well hopefully the next video is going to be an Illness Fakers video. I am going to make my best effort to edit an Illness Fakers video, or at least write an Illness Fakers video on the train. I don't think I have one to edit. I don't know why I said edit. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon, and hopefully my next video will be an Illness Fakers video because I have a bunch of topics to talk about. But it's just, I wanted to talk about this topic since I was living in Chicago. Alright, bye guys.